Hello, everyone. Welcome. So, this is this is going to be the last episode for this series of Thursday night live streams, um, and I just kind of wanted to just do a short live stream tonight. I'm gonna go over some things a little bit here and there. I'm kind of chill out. Talk about a few things. But the main thing I wanted to just let everybody know is I started these Thursday night live streams because I definitely had some information that I wanted to get out there that I think would be helpful for people. And I wanted to do it live just in case there was any interest in people making comments or asking questions, whatever. I thought it would be a good opportunity to provide that, potential back and forth if there were some questions or things like that. There hasn't been too much of that as I've gone through the weeks with with these live streams, which is fine. There could be a lot of reasons for that, and it's just, it is what it is. But that was kind of like the kind of my main intention with the live streams, to be able to provide that opportunity for some information exchange if people thought that might be helpful. So this is going to be the last live stream of this series, whatever it's been. Kind of like, this is like the 16th episode. I've enjoyed doing them. I've learned a lot through the process. I'm definitely going to continue posting videos to YouTube and to Rumble, because there's all kinds of information to continue to give out, and that might be helpful for people to know. And I'll be able to present it in different ways. Whether it's a short video here and there, maybe potentially I'll interview somebody on a particular topic they have expertise in, and so we can get information that way as well. But whatever, I'm just kind of shifting things a little bit, kind of seeing what's the best way to provide this information, really, overall, what's helpful for anybody out there who's kind of tuning in, and also for me, it's good for me to present this information. It's good for me to because it helps me learn it better. It helps me be able to present it better. So that's the main thing I wanted to kind of express tonight. Let me do something here real quick. Let me see. I'm going to bring up, like I said, so tonight I just have 12 or so short clips of different things that I think that'll focus in on certain topics that we've been talking about. And it'll be a good example to see some of the things. And so like I said, it's just going to be probably relatively short tonight, just to go through this and kind of finish up this live stream series. But there's definitely some things that I came across this week that I thought you'd be interested in seeing. Let me bring this up here. So one thing to keep in mind is just the amount of basically the left, just everything they say is a lie. It's just nonstop. It's just nonstop lies, right? So I just have a couple of clips here just to kind of show examples of that. It's nonstop lies, and it's just nonstop ways of them trying to cover up their lies, right? And I just it's so important for people to understand that it's just everything that we're being told is you have to be incredibly skeptical about all of this stuff, because certainly, as we've seen over the past few years, how we've been lied to, and it's coming out more and more. me bring this up a little bit closer here. So this is a House committee hearing, and I just want to play it real quick here. Well, it says this is related to emails, kind of behind the scene emails, and how the National Institute for Health tried to find ways to kind of delete emails and to cover up things that that they didn't want the public to know about. Let me bring this clip up a little bit bigger, and we'll play this here. Let me start it over with
David Moran, a senior advisor.
Here we go.
Shifting to some questions regarding NIH's document retention policies. Dr. David Moran, a senior advisor to Dr. Fauci for decades.
So he's talking about NIH's document retention policies, right?
Shifting to some questions regarding NIH's document retention policies. Dr. David Moran, a senior advisor to Dr. Fauci for decades, wrote in an email to Dr. Daszak, quote, "I learned from our FOIA lady here how to make emails disappear after I am FOIA'd, but before the search starts. So I think we're all safe. Plus, I deleted most of those earlier emails after sending them to Gmail," end quote. Is that consistent with NIH document retention policies?
It is not.
Does the NIH FOIA office teach employees how to avoid transparency?
I certainly hope not.
He also later wrote Dr. Daszak, and I quote, "We are all smart enough to know to never have smoking guns, and if we did, we wouldn't put them in emails. And if we found them, we would delete them," end quote. Is that consistent with NIH document retention policies?
It is not.
Finally, emails show that Dr. Moran's would share internal discussions regarding upcoming FOIA releases with Dr. Daszak. He would then help Dr. Daszak craft responses to documents being released in these FOIAs. Are those actions consistent with NIH policies?
If those actions occurred, they would not be consistent. No.
So do these actions concern you, Dr. Tabak?
It does indeed.
What is Dr. Moran's current employment status?
He is an employee of NIH.
Well, I think you see where my lines of questioning were leading.
Okay, so right, I mean, just to show you the the behind the scenes efforts to conceal information, from the public, so that they don't get caught red-handed, and also just keep in mind too, when I bring specific examples of things, to your attention. What I've been doing, the past few months or whatever, and certainly tonight, it's not necessarily about, the specific example. It's just to give you a sense of the broader way that the government handles things, and how we are just totally, they do not care about us. And how they try to conceal things and lie, and the other thing too is they will say anything. They will say anything because they could always go back, and they're very shifty because they'll always go back and say, well, that's I'm using a different definition for this particular term, even though there's a very common understanding of the word or of the term in the public. But if they get caught, right, they'll say, well, I didn't mean it that way. I meant it, some technical way that that most people don't know about. So I wasn't lying. I was just using it in a different way. So they're always just trying to be very, very shifty. And especially as we know, the manipulations with words and how they try to get away with things. Let me bring up another example here. So, all right. So let's just watch this clip. Right. This is talking about the inflation numbers. And Neil Cavuto here, he's asking the question is why does Biden always refer to the inflation rate being at 9% when Biden came into office, when that was clearly not the case, right? And just watch the tap dancing and the just completely trying to get out of the situation, that instead of just answering the question directly.
Why does he keep saying that? You're its top you're the head of the Council of Economic Advisors. Do you ever whisper in his ear, Mr. President, just to be technical about it, it wasn't 9% when you assumed office, it was 1.4%. It got as high as 9% in 2022. You brought it down from that, but it was never, ever, ever 9% when you came into office. So why does he keep saying it?
Well, first of all, let me point out that in that very quote you played, the president talked about how concerned he was for households struggling with prices that he consistently
That's not what I
characterizes
asked you.
as too
That's
high.
not what I asked
Okay,
you.
so let me
Why
speak to
does
that.
he keep misrepresenting
Okay.
this?
He's making the point that the factors that caused inflation to climb to 9% were in place when he took office. I
No,
think it
that's
was
not what
by-
he said. He said it was at 9%. It would eventually
So by
get to
the-
9% a little over a year after that. But the fact of
Well,
the
that's-
matter is it wasn't 9%. So if I can't trust him quoting data in real time, why should I believe what he's talking about now?
So the annual growth in core inflation in the second quarter of 21 was in fact about 9%. And his point about inflation down 60% off its peak is very much the case. So
No,
look,
it wasn't. It was not
again,
it was not at that. So you're almost as bad as he is. Why can't you just say it was high? It got as high as 9%. You'd be accurate in saying that. And we have now brought it down, and we're struggling in around the 3% area. But it's better than it was. But instead, to hang
Listen,
it on his predecessor, that you inherited something that was through the roof when we were in the middle of COVID. It just seems to the American people, whether you're
wait a second.
Republican or Democrat,
Hold
you're
on, Neil.
lying. You're just lying.
Well, hold on. I hear you. The president was making the point that I think is unequivocally true. The factors that took inflation to 9% were in place when he took office.
That is not what he said, Jared. And you're a very smart guy with this stuff. You could just whisper, and he's a good friend of yours, obviously, thinks the world of you. Many others do as well. You could have just told him, Chief, I got to tell you, Mr. President, whatever you say, you might even call him Joe. That's how close you are. And look, say, sir, it was not 9%. Stop it with the 9%, because the more you say that, the more people don't believe what you're saying.
Look, I think what the American people care most about is the fact
truth.
that inflation.
The American people care about truth, Jared.
Hold on, Neil. Neil, this only works if you let me talk, okay?
You haven't answered my question. I've asked it 5.
That dude's like, I can only bullshit you if you only let me talk. It's unbelievable.
At times,
I'll
five
finish that real quick.
ways.
Just a couple more seconds.
The president was making the point that the factors that caused inflation were in place when he took office, and that's unequivocally true.
Right.
I take your point, and we can have we can go on all day back and forth on this.
Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to, just another example. Where is it? Where are we at here? There we go. Just another example. Complete bullshit. And then when they get caught on it, they try to dance around the issue, or they try to change a definition, or they try to read into in this case, the president's mind. He's trying to read into the president's mind and say, well, this is what he was actually trying to say, even though the words that came out of his mouth were something, were something different. So it's just something to show you, just something to keep in mind. It's just nonstop. Let me see this one here. Right. So this is another example here, and this is with Anthony Fauci with the whether or not there was gain of function research being done in the Wuhan lab, right? With the COVID. So let me play this here real quick.
Of function research in the Wuhan.
Give me a second. I'll pop it up a little bigger. Okay, here we go.
Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain of function research in the Wuhan Institute.
Do they fund Dr.
Virology.
Barrick?
Dr. Tabak, did NIH fund gain of function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology through EcoHealth?
It depends on your definition of gain of function research. If you're speaking about the generic term, yes, we did.
Dr. Fauci, do you still?
Right. So just there it is right there. Right. There's the example. Anthony Fauci is saying that they did not use gain of function research. Right. And now this other guy's saying, it depends on what definition you're using for gain of function. Right. So this is complete bullshit games that they're playing. And they get away with it unless they get called out on it. And of course, unless more people are aware of it and know the tactics that they're using, right? And that's what I'm trying to show, to expose the different tactics, expose the different things, so that whatever you can be aware of it and pick it out sooner. So this is interesting here, right? This is a clip of Nancy Pelosi. I think she's at a debate at the Oxford Union. And just I'd like you to listen to what she has to say here and what she thinks about regular Americans, right?
And the cultural and
Oops. Okay, here we go. My computer's a little slow tonight for some reason. Something's slowing it down. So let's see if we get jammed up. So we got my computer froze up there for a minute. I'm not sure what's going on. It's running a little bit slower tonight. So here we go. Let me see if I can get this back. Here we go. Here she is.
of these poor souls who are looking for some answers. We've given them to them, but they're blocked by some of their views on guns. They have the 3 Gs, guns, gays, God. That would be a woman's right to choose. And the cultural issues cloud some of their reception of an argument that really is in their interest of these poor souls.
Right. So she's saying that there's cultural issues, right, that block their ability to understand that, to understand that the way she wants to do things would be more in their interests. Right. So this is just a way of thinking, that, these people think that they have a higher level of knowledge, right, than the regular Americans, that they don't have the right consciousness to be able to look out for themselves, so instead they do things that are, not in their interest, or they advocate for things that are not in their interest. If they would only listen to Nancy Pelosi, if they would only listen to the Democrats, right, they would, things would be great. So this is, like I said, it's an example of someone who thinks that they have a higher level, kind of like a secret knowledge that, regular people aren't able to access because of cultural issues. So this starts to get into some of the censorship things that we've been talking about, right? And this is really important to keep in mind, right? This is talking about how the European Union wants to criminalize speech that opposes the migration, right? So, and trust me, this will come to the United States. This is something that they're trying to do. Censorship is a huge issue, and I have a few clips on that. But I just want you to hear what this guy has to say.
And one basic element of this new agreement is the extension of the definition of hate speech. The agreement wants to criminalize migration speech. Criticism of migration will become a criminal offense. And media outlets, and that also concerns you, that give room to criticism of migration can be shut down. The compact for migration is legalization of mass migration. And one basic...
Right, so they're really trying to control our speech. They're really trying, because that is the biggest threat. Free speech is the biggest threat to what the globalists are trying to do. So anything they can do, and obviously most communication nowadays is online communication, right? Social media is pretty much the main, and obviously YouTube and Rumble and all the different various video platforms and things like that. And they're trying to control all of that. Something I want to point out is this, and let me bring this picture up here. So if you can, yeah, you can probably see it. It's probably big enough for you, right? I'm looking at kind of like the quote bubbles down in the lower left-hand corner here. There's misinformation, malinformation, and disinformation. And first of all, this particular thing is from the Department of Homeland Security, but this is actually the censorship industry's kind of framework for how they're going to censor people, right? And what they do is they've categorized these three different. Well, they've made these three different categorizations on different type of information and how they can use it to censor people, right? So they have misinformation, malinformation, and disinformation. And if you read at it here, misinformation, they're calling it, saying that it's false. It's false information, but it's not created or shared with the intention of causing harm, right? So this is their loophole of getting out of trouble when they are caught in a lie. If you look over on the right-hand side of the screen, under my X post here, at the top it says misinfo for misinformation. I just have, and it says, "Oops, the establishment," and I put E to represent establishment for the later bullet points. I put, "Oops, the misinformation equals oops. The establishment got caught in a lie, but they didn't mean it." So they can always, if they get caught in something, they can say, oh, well, that was misinformation. We didn't know it at the time, or, whatever. It's their way out. Right. So then you come down to the next one here is malinformation. And I'm going to read the bubble quote here. Malinformation is based on fact, but used out of context to mislead, harm, or manipulate. Right. So if you look over on the right hand side, you kind of get my kind of interpretation of it, or basically my breakdown of what it really says. Malinformation, it's people who are telling the truth, but it threatens the establishment narrative, right? So once again, they can call something, if somebody's, if regular people are out there, on podcasts or on posting things on social media, that's the truth. But if it threatens the establishment narrative, right? If they feel that it's used out of context to mislead or harm or manipulate people, right? They can censor it. And they will censor it, right, under this malinformation category. And finally, the quote bubble at the bottom here, disinformation, right? Disinformation is deliberately created to mislead, harm, or manipulate a person, social group, or organization. Social group, organization, or country, right? So this one here, and if you look at my kind of like my breakdown of it on the right hand side again, disinformation means the establishment determines the intention of what people say. So, right, disinformation is deliberately created to mislead. Who decides if something is deliberately created to mislead somebody, or but this is how they're going to use it. So in every case, in the misinformation, in the malinformation, in the disinformation categories, in every case, the establishment wins by design, right? They have a loophole. They have a way to get out of their lies. They have a way to crack down and censor speech that when people are telling the truth on something, and they have a way to determine the intention of what people say and interpret, what they meant about it. So this is incredibly dangerous, and this is the framework they're using across the board, and how to in the censorship industry. It's funny, it doesn't come out right when I say it, but the censorship industry, this is the framework they're using. So this here, right? This is just another example of them talking about hate speech. First of all, and this is a post from Global Goals UN. This is associated with the United Nations, and we've talked about them plenty of times. We know how they're kind of like, most of the stuff is being coordinated down from them to a large extent. A lot of the certainly the globalist agenda, but including censorship aspects of it. So what they say is here: hate speech and disinformation can spread like wildfire, both online and offline. We all have a part to play in stopping it in its tracks. Amplify facts, call out mis and disinformation, and educate yourself and others to say no to hate. So they're harping on this hate speech. They're harping on this idea of hate speech. There is no such thing as hate speech. There is no obviously there is speech that you might hate. There is speech that I might hate. There is speech that other people might hate, right? But that's the whole point of the First Amendment. The whole point of the First Amendment is so that people have the freedom of speech to say things that that might offend other people, right? We don't have it's not the First Amendment just to hear things or just to allow people to say things that you want to hear or that you're okay hearing, right? So don't fall into this trap of believing anything about hate speech. There is no such thing as hate speech, but they use it. And listen, we're lucky in the United States with our Constitution and with our First Amendment, because no other country in the world has the has the First Amendment, right? They do have hate speech laws in a lot of countries in Europe, and people are getting tracked down by the police. People are being sent to jail. People are being arrested, for things that they say online, and it's crazy because what it comes down to is who gets to decide what is considered hate speech, right? And it's it's people who are eventually are going to abuse that. So this is another example here. This is Congressman Dan Bishop. I believe he's from North Carolina. And I'll just play this clip so you can hear what's.
Justice Department recognizes the urgency of the, and includes our national security divisions and the FBI's work to protect our elections from national security threats, including malign foreign influence and cyber-enabled campaigns. The Justice Department recognizes the urgency of these threats, and we are prepared to confront them. And it includes our national security divisions and the. And it includes our national.
I'm going to play this. I'm going to play this again here one more time. It's a short clip.
And it includes our national security divisions and the FBI's work to protect our elections from national security threats, including malign foreign influence and cyber.
So they're talking about protecting the election from national security threats, from malign foreign interests from foreign countries or foreign bad actors, right? But listen to what he says next.
Influence and cyber-enabled campaigns.
And cyber-enabled campaigns, right? Which basically means, and that's that's the language they're using so that people don't pick up on it. But that's how they're going to censor Americans. That's how they're going to use a censorship towards what they consider to be domestic threats to their agenda. Really is what it is. So just understand that, right? They put it as we're protecting people from foreign bad actors, but then they use from also from cyber campaigns, which means if somebody posts something online and all of a sudden it goes viral and it gets thousands of views, thousands or tens of thousands or even up to some of them up over millions of views, right? That could be considered a cyber campaign. And if that information, even though it may be true, if they think it threatens their ability to control to control the narrative, they'll censor it. I just have a few more here. Just like I said, I just wanted to kind of chill out tonight, go over a few things, as part of this last live stream here. This is just some stuff that kind of popped up over the week that I thought would be really good for to go over. So let me do this here. So this is Mike Benz. We've reviewed quite a bit of his work, and I will be posting information and videos and stuff from him in the future as well. Obviously he's very focused on the censorship industry and how how important it is for us to understand what's going on and where it's coming from and what they're trying to do. It's really you have to think of it as a weapon. You have to think of it as a weapon because generally after World War II, right, countries could not build their empires or conquer countries and stuff through military means as much as they had been in the past, right? So they have to switch to this kind of this soft power influence, and social media is a huge part of that, and that's why they are so intent on controlling it and censoring it, because any speech or that is in opposition to their agenda is a huge threat to what they want to do, right? And this is one of the big reasons why. Well, this is the major reason why that we talked about a few weeks ago. Why they're trying to crack down so hard on X, right? On Twitter and Elon Musk. Not only with Twitter itself, but on Tesla. On all these other things that Elon Musk is involved in, they're trying to put a tremendous pressure on Elon Musk so that he caves. So anyway, just something else to keep in mind here too was, and this is like I said, this is a post from Mike Benz. He's talking about. So we talked about things. You can't look at things in terms of left and right anymore, or Republican and Democrat, right? You have to look at it in terms of whether something is blob aligned or it's non-blob aligned, right? And we talked about what the blob is, right? This is information that Mike brought to us, in terms of it's on the government side, or the government portion of the blob is generally like the State Department. It's the foreign policy establishment. There we go. Right. It's the State Department. It's the Department of Defense and the intelligence agencies. Pretty much the CIA. Right. That's the government side of the blob, and the other side of the blob, which is they're all working together. The other side of the blob, outside of the government, is big corporations and big finance. The corporations and finance industries are working together with the foreign policy establishment of the government to basically maintain and advance the global American empire. Right. This is. And this is why they've shifted focus away from the homeland and the American people, because they're more interested in the global markets and the emerging global markets that they can make more money off of, make more money from. So understanding that, I'm going to play this clip, and you'll see how, and also what they do is they call their advancement of this globalist empire, this American empire, they call that advancement of that, or the maintenance of that, they call that democracy. When they're talking about democracy, they're talking about ruling establishment, globalist agenda. That's what they're talking about, right? So anybody who opposes their agenda, right? Any national leaders, any movements or whatever, are a threat. They call that a threat to democracy, right? And so when we hear that on the news, or people hear that on the news, oh, this is a threat to democracy. We think it's a threat. It's a threat to us, or it's a threat to the American homeland, or it's a threat to our constitutional Republican form of government, right? But no. That's the manipulation. That's the word games that they use, right? Because they're talking about their globalist empire, and opposition to that is a threat to them, and they call that a threat to democracy. And what Mike put together here is kind of just a short clip, because the reason he did this is because a prime minister of Slovakia just got just got shot, right? So he put together a clip of some national leaders who were attacked, either shot and killed or stabbed or whatever. And these were national leaders who were not fully on board, who did not support this globalist agenda, right? They were populist leaders. They were more patriotic leaders to their country, like Trump is, or that like Trump represents, you know, for the populist movement, the patriotic movement of America, the America First movement, right? So I just want to show you this because it's interesting, right? So maybe I'll play it a little slower because he moved this one kind of quick. I'll make it a little bigger here. So Shinzo Abe, I believe is how you pronounce it, was the leader of Japan, right? So, and you can see here, Shinzo Abe was Trump before. This is from the Daily Beast, right? So this is a headline from the Daily Beast. They're comparing him to Trump for the reasons that we just talked about in terms of they are populist leaders. They are not leaders who are basically they're not supporting the globalist movement. So this is Shinzo Abe, right? I'm going to just play it real quick. Ooh, that was a little bit loud. Give me a second. I don't know how it's coming across on your screen, but that was a little loud here. All right, so this is saying, was Trump before Trump? It's just, what? I'm going to turn the volume off on this because just for a second here, I'll play it here, right? So I was showing him, he was shot and killed, right? Here's tropical Trump, so-called, in quotes, tropical Trump, Jair Bolsonaro of Brazil, right? The populist leader of Brazil, right? You can see threat to democracy, right? What happens to him? Right? And I believe he was stabbed, or he survived. He survived. He's still alive. But then you have another one here. This one's from Germany. Once again, threat to democracy. What happens to this guy? This guy takes a beating. Now you have somebody from Spain. Once again, right, is called out as a threat to democracy. What happens to this? This guy's shot in the face. From Pakistan, Imran Khan from Pakistan. So then you have, and then finally here, the one that I just talked about. Once again, Slovakia's election and the erosion of democracy, right? What happens to this guy? He's shot. He's still in the hospital. That's just the ending of this thing. He's shot. He's still in the hospital. They're saying that that he's going to survive, but this is just kind of the point that I'm trying to make is in terms of what the blob, what this globalist American empire, this globalist movement is if they, I'm not saying for certain that they're the ones that shot and injured and stabbed and all these non-globalist leaders, right? That weren't going along with the program. But it's awfully coincidental that, a lot of these populist leaders, something's happening to them. Okay. So this here brings up the point, right? It says Pope Francis, he's saying world nearing the breaking point from climate change. right? There's a couple things just to keep in mind with this. First of all, the Pope is part of the globalist movement, right? He's on board. He's pushing. He's part of it. He's part of it. Sorry, hate to, whatever. I don't know what your religious beliefs are or whatever like that, but too bad. He is part of the globalist movement. And in fact, part of kind of this unity religious movement, which is total heresy. And that's a whole nother topic that we can, go over another time or whatever. But, so first of all, the Pope is part of the globalist movement. The other part of this is talking about climate change, right? Of course, he's spouting, disinformation, whatever. But the thing to understand is, yes, there is going to be severe climate change over in the coming years, in the coming decades. But I'm just going to tell you, you can look this up yourself, and I encourage you to do so, right? It's related to the sun, but and more specifically, it's related to Earth's magnetic poles shifting, the north and south, not the geographic location, but the magnetic poles are shifting, right? And that shift in the magnetic poles is causing Earth's magnetic field to weaken, right? So the Earth is bombarded by all kinds of things, from space, from the sun, all the time. But we have this magnetic field that protects us from most of that. But because the poles are shifting and that magnetic field is weakening, we're more susceptible to the activity of the sun, right? And that's what happened this past weekend with the whole solar flare kind of thing that was in the news and all the northern lights that were so spectacular, right? And how they were green and they were kind of pink and they were, and they were so strong, and how they came down into kind of, into areas of the United States, even southern areas, into like Alabama and Texas. And they went down, even people could even see them as far down as Puerto Rico, right? And this wasn't even it wasn't even considered to be like a big solar flare, right? But because our magnetic field has weakened, right? It has a greater impact on the Earth, right? And so anyway, there's a whole bunch of information you can, I suggest you kind of like start digging into it if you're interested. But don't let them try to convince you that, whatever, we have to give up fossil fuels, even though China's, creating all these new, coal burning plants and all this other stuff. Don't fall for it, because they're trying to destroy our economy. They're trying to destroy the strength of America so that they can take it over is what they're trying to do. Just have two more things here real quick, just to finish up. One of them here is, and this is a post from James Lindsay. Let me stop it for a second. So these are performers or whatever they are. This Eurovision, I think some kind of music contest or talent contest from different countries in Europe. I'm not 100% sure, but that's not the point. What I'm trying to show here. Let me play what she has to say first, and then we'll just kind of review what James says here.
What makes me special? Come on! Come on! Do you know what makes me special? I'm a queer. And I'm a witch! And
So she, and so she said, do you know what makes me special? She says, I'm a queer, right? And we've talked about the difference between gay and queer and how it's so important for everyone to understand how even though in the past they were kind of used, I won't say interchangeably, but queer was certainly used as a slur to mean gay, right? But it's so important to understand how the term queer has been repurposed to mean something totally different than what it used to mean in the past, right? So James says here, reminder, by definition, it's not possible to be queer. It's only possible to act queer. And this is what it looks like, right? So she's saying she's queer, right? But she's acting queer. And what we talked about was how gay is a sexual orientation. Queer does not mean sexual orientation. Queer is a political stance that positions itself in opposition to normalcy, to anything that's legitimate. Whatever is considered to be normal or legitimate, it's going to try to mock that or oppose that, or try to deconstruct and dismantle and destroy that concept of whatever society thinks is legitimate or whatever society thinks is normal, right? So this is why this performer can get up here and say that she is queer, right? Because of the way the way that she behaves, and if you saw her performance, you would see even a lot more. But the way she presents herself, the way she acts, right? It's trying to kind of break normalcy. It's trying to break what is considered to be legitimate. That's what queer means. And you might think, it's a big deal, right? This is a performer. Performers wear crazy costumes. They do outrageous things, whatever, right? But this is just an example. This is being done society-wide, right? This is being done society-wide. And that's what this queer agenda is all about. And that's why it's so dangerous that people don't understand the conflation of what these activists are doing. They're trying to attach themselves to gays, to the gay movement, so that people think that it's a legitimate movement, so that people will have sympathy for them and say, they shouldn't be marginalized. Gay, society generally, has accepted gay people and is not marginalizing them. Certainly not the way it was in the past, right? So people are trying, to look at this, this transgender movement, this queer plus movement, and attach itself to that societal acceptance that the gay movement has achieved, right? But it's a completely different thing. You have sexual orientation versus a political ideology that wants to destroy society. It completely have nothing to do with each other. Okay, so I got just the last one here. We'll show it and then we'll wrap things up. Once again, I'm just going to show this video first, and then we'll talk about it. Let me stop it for a second. Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
Non, c'est bon, je vais aller demander. J'ai hyper peur.
Yeah. Do you speak English? No? Yeah? Bro, sorry. Please. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah? Okay, finish. Okay. Avec plaisir.
Thank you.
Okay, so you can see in this video, right? This guy's walking around. First of all, he's filming himself, right? He's doing this for social media clout, right? But you can see he's walking around in this, shopping area. Looks like the street's closed type of thing, shopping area. And he's walking up to people, and he's just not saying anything, walking up and just taking their drink from them, right? And the people are totally caught off guard. They don't understand what's happening, and they give into it, right? They're probably, especially because most of these are women, but not all of them. But most of them are women, right? So they might be intimidated by a male, especially young, I'm sure relatively strong male, just coming up to them and just kind of coming into their space and actually taking something away from them without even saying anything or anything at all. It's a very strange and very intimidating situation, right? So people don't know how to react to it. And the reason I wanted to show this is because, all right, yeah, this could be just some pranks. Well, it is, right? Some prankster pulling this crap, and filming it, and going to put it on social media to to gain social media clout, right? But understand that this dynamic of people kind of getting caught off guard by something that is intimidating them, and then them not knowing what to do, and then them submitting to it or going along with it. This is happening. If you think about the woke ideology and how that kind of finds its way into schools and into organizations, into the government, whatever, right? All of this stuff starts out as kind of as a very small, a very small kind of let's say entrance, and it kind of catches people off guard. They don't know how to react to it. But then once it's in, right? Then once it's in, it uses its intimidation from within to keep people off guard and to keep people from saying something. And because the people didn't say something initially because they didn't know what was going on, they already feel like, all right, this is already in an organization. In order to get it out is going to be a huge process, a huge uproar, cause huge problems. And most people don't want to deal with the confrontation. They don't want to deal with the problems that come with that, right? So what happens is it just escalates. But the thing that I thought was really interesting with this video is just how, people get caught unsuspectingly in a situation, and how, a little bit of intimidation combined with catching people off guard, how that is used to manipulate people and to get them to go along with things that don't make no sense to them, that they shouldn't go along with. clearly, someone coming up and taking somebody from somebody is not something that society should accept, right? So, and the other thing to keep in mind too is, and I think this is related to this, but I want you to keep it in mind in a bigger sense, is that we are shifting from a high trust society, and this is why people get caught off guard. They're not expecting people to behave this way in a high trust society that we had, but we're shifting from that society, from a high trust to a lower trust, and to a much more to a low trust society, and while we're in that transition, the people who don't understand that, the people who, it's very easy for them to be manipulated. It's very easy for them to get caught off guard, because they still think we're living in this high trust society where people behave in a certain way, where now that is changing. It's breaking down. It's breaking down because of everything that's happening. It's, because of the intentional destruction of our society, especially, certainly, culturally in this particular instance, that, people are very susceptible to these manipulations and to this intimidation. And, we talked quite a bit about intimidation a couple episodes ago, and how that is used to catch unsuspecting and good-natured people off guard, and to manipulate them and to take advantage of them. So just watch this one more time. I'll play it one more time, and like I said, this is the last clip for the night. Oh, one more second. Let me bring it up to the full screen.
Non, c'est bon, je vais aller tomber. J'ai hyper peur.
Yeah.
You can see the reactions. Obviously, no one's expecting that, right? Now, this girl, he just hands it to him. You can see he's laughing because he knows he's taking advantage of him. This guy ain't having he ain't having none of it. He knows this is BS.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay, finish. Okay. Avec plaisir.
Thank you.
Okay. So that was it. That's what I wanted to show for tonight. Just go over a few things. It actually lasted, longer than I thought, but I thought these were some interesting clips to talk about. So, like I said, this is the last episode for the Thursday night live streams. I appreciate everybody that that watched them live, and everyone who watched the recordings. I appreciate that. I hope the information was helpful. Like I said, the intention of doing the live streams was to try to give the opportunity for people who might have been interested to kind of engage with what was being presented, kind of in real time, to maybe make a comment or ask a question if they had any. But that didn't necessarily, that didn't turn out, the way it potentially could have if, people didn't really have too many questions about it or whatever, which I said, which is fine. Right. But what I am going to do is I will continue to make videos, because I enjoy doing it. I think some of the information is helpful, and hopefully people are getting some information out of it. So I will be continuing to post videos on YouTube and on Rumble as well. You know, especially Rumble, because listen, Google owns YouTube, and you know, YouTube is going to be, you know, more and more of an issue with censorship. Hopefully Rumble can hold out, you know, as long as they can. So anyway, that's it. I appreciate you joining, and you know, keep an eye on the channels for more videos coming up. Take care.